wanted to share the story with running across the country and promoting health and wellness, but it goes back to my junior year in college when I was 19, playing rugby. And I played all the different sports growing up, and I was mainly just a sprinter. And I uh, I injured my shoulder. I tore my labrum during practice one day, and it really changed the trajectory of like how I define myself as like a sports player. I couldn't do a lot of things, with the injury. I couldn't work out anymore as much. There's a lot of things that I couldn't do, and that was kind of my first taste of depression. I've always been a pretty positive, happy person going through my life, and I started having a self conversation of what can I do versus what can't I do, to change things. And one of the things that I could do is run. My knees, my legs are so great. So I signed up for a turkey trot. As I realized that happened, also, I realized how much running became kind of my therapy and how many like ideas, how many things I could work out. As I said, a few people that know me, that I talk about Henry David Thoreau and the quote that as soon as my legs began to move, my thoughts began to flow. And I really felt that. So I was a personal trainer once I graduated school, and since 21 years old. So now I'm about 23 years old, 2 years into my profession, and I just had this epiphany hit me that I wanted to run across the country, kind of like Forrest Gump. And as I was watching some of the TED talks years ago, I guess when they started in Monterey, California, um, I came to the notion of like, if you think it, ink it, write it down, write down your thoughts, and if you really want to accomplish some of your goals, put the whys behind it, So I wrote down in 2009 to run across the country. I'm like, well, why do I want to do that? And with health and nutrition, a lot of people read certain things and think that's what it is, but I just still think there's a lot of misinformation about how to eat or how to exercise. And I wanted to share that, that gift of knowledge of just promoting health and wellness. After writing some of those things down, I was preparing myself through doing these different races that would prepare me mentally and physically to do the run. And I guess to accomplish any goal, you have to set a date behind that. And so I wrote down in early 2012, after 3 years of writing that down initially, 2012, August 20th was going to be the day that I would embark and do this run. And, at the time when I was having these thoughts, I became the head trainer at the Under Armour gym in Baltimore, Maryland. They were going to sponsor me head to toe. And during the time, 2012 is when they're coming out with all their run shoes, because they're initially first an apparel company. And I tried about like 4 or 5 different pairs of their shoes out, and all of them gave me blisters. So I had to be real with them and have a meeting with them and let them know that I was having a conversation and saying, running different marathons and these ultra marathons, I'd wear Nike Frees at the time, and they were the best shoes for me, and they never gave me blisters. So I told them I was going to have to go with the Nikes. And obviously, being in a quote unquote like brand conflict, they, with all the relationships, amazing, like, friendship and everything backing I was going to have from them, if they said I was going to run with Nike shoes, then this wasn't going to be a deal for them. They would kind of like, it was essentially like my breakup with Under Armour. Then I didn't ever really see coming, but it was in my face, because it was a decision that, again, being real with, if I were to get blisters on the first day of this run, you can't really, it's very hard to continually run in blisters. So I had to keep it genuine with myself and go with my heart and go with the Nike. So that was a big, I guess, moment leading up to that I didn't see coming, but it happened. But again, I was still fine and okay with it, and still confident with the decision I made. And yeah, as I ran actually through the States and just met different families that hosted me, it was just amazing to see, I guess, where their knowledge was on fitness and nutrition, what they currently did, to keep themselves in shape or didn't, and just really seeing the genuine receptivity of like when I ran to their house, they were just so all ears, and it was just amazing to speak with people that would host me. And I guess I had 70 locations from Baltimore, Maryland. The end goal was Coronado Beach, and as I was mapping it out, I started to see that towns and cities were becoming much further apart, and I'm like, oh wow, it's going to take 60 miles or 75 miles to get to this next town or city after Lubbock, Texas, I guess, getting into New Mexico and then into California. Just playing with some thoughts, and the thoughts that came to me were my grandpa Weed, my mom's father, lives in Corpus Christi, Texas, and my dad's father lives in Dallas, Texas at the time. They were both retired, so I reached out to them to tell them my crazy plan, and I asked them if we could rent an RV at Lubbock, Texas, where my aunt lives, and then they would basically drive it 7 or 8 miles ahead of me, and I would run to the RV, then get some water, maybe get a snack, and then they would drive it again another 7 or 8 miles ahead, and do that incrementally, like I guess inchworming along, and after like 4 rounds of that would be roughly 30 miles. Then we'd find a close RV camp, spend the night there, and then we would start the journey where we left off the next day and eventually make it. So as I made it down to the East Coast, my birthday's September 23rd, my dad and my sister were flying down to Atlanta, Georgia, where I was going to be, and they asked what I wanted for my birthday. And I started like a week previous, started developing this like muscle knot, the back of my left back, and I came up with a bob stroller, or like a jogging stroller. So I'm like, Dad, I want a jogging stroller, like where you push your babies in. And he started laughing. I was like, because I'm going to put all my like luggage, all my stuff in the front of that, and push that to Lubbock, Texas. And again, another unforeseen thing, which was funny with that, was that it was a good idea in which it made the run more efficient and smoother for me and help alleviate that back pain. But now what was happening is that when I was running on the road, people would, I guess, just glance over quickly because I had this wet seal bag with all my stuff in it, like this big yellow bag in the front of the stroller. And I guess people would think I was like pushing my baby on the highway or like pushing, I don't know. So I'd get the cops called on me a lot. And the cops would stop me like, what's going on? What are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm running across the country promoting health and wellness. The thing is running across the country on the interstate, I guess that's illegal. And police officers were like, okay, great. I love what you're doing, but we need to get you on like a back road or side road, that's not on the interstate. And I said, okay, after a while. So here's the other thing that came into a dilemma or a situation, is that actually, I started, there was like the questions of like, man, why am I doing this? Like, what am I, like some real questions hit me, and a little bit of depression sank in, but then I was able to get myself out. But the real finish line wasn't like San Diego. The real finish line for me was seeing my grandparents in Lubbock, Texas. And once I knew I had that, an everyday energy of family, I knew I could, finish this run and kind of, I guess, do what I was set out to do. It was all kind of fun and play, I guess, after that. And my dad did actually join me for 2 weeks on the RV, actually after we dropped off my grandfather. But a very interesting thing that hit me that I never saw coming was that seeing my Grandpa Weed and Grandpa Sam's together for the first time in an RV, living together, I really saw where I came from, or some of the moments of who I am and why I am who I am. As I was going through the states, I would always take pictures of, welcome to New Mexico, welcome to Arizona. And then once I got to California, welcome to California, I was looking down at my my iPhone at the time, and then it was just like so surreal. Like it was like 2 p.m. in the day, and then my phone went back to 1 p.m. because of the time change. And I'm like, holy shit, I'm in California right now. And wow, what a journey it's been. Like all these emotions started coming up, like started like crying on the run of just like pure happy tears. And again, I wasn't there. I wasn't at the destination yet. The projected date to finish was January 19th, 2013. So giving myself 5 months to run across the country. I finished it in 4 months and 3 weeks. So actually I had a week to like relax and hang out before all the family friends got to Coronado Hotel where the celebration was going to be. And then I saved, I guess, like 10 miles at the end to run. So I ran with one of my like best friends, old client from when I was 21 years old. His name's Guy Gimmel. So he did the run with me, finished the run out with me into the Pacific Ocean. And it was just such a surreal moment. And it's really all in the journey. It's not the destination. It's not getting to the end goal or end part. It's really, who did I become? What did I think about? Who did I meet along that whole 4 months and 3 weeks, versus that one day at the end when I finished it. And also that, a lot of people that hear the story, they think that I've always been gifted with long distance running thing, and it's actually something that I really worked for, like really worked hard at. And I guess what I invite everyone to do is that if you have certain thoughts that keep reoccurring, or have these epiphany moments, play with them. Think like take the pen to paper and write it down, because when you do write something down, that's really like mentally it's like planting the seed. No one's making you do that right there. It's like it's you doing that. And again, when you write it down and putting the whys, and then putting the hows, and then the when am I going to do this, that just really like brings it to light, or brings that manifestation to actually happening. And that's, as the years or as the time ticks on, you're either adding the water and the sunlight to make that grow, or you're not. And I don't know, I just invite everyone to write some of your wildest crazy thoughts down, because you never know where that could take your life, and how many people you may meet along the way that could really help change and shift your life for the better. So
Chris,
what's up,
dude,
man?
it's so nice to have you in my home on the show.
Likewise, thank you.
Yeah, for everyone tuning in, Chris and I just met in November, and I got to say it was a bit of a man crush instantly. I got to go to your apartment in Brooklyn, and it's like the coolest apartment I've ever seen in terms of the decoration, so I want to get into that. But since you are so inspiring and just told us that amazing story about how you chose to go Forrest Gump and to run across the country, and to bring health and wellness along the way, and all the wisdom that you shared throughout your story. Just thank you for thinking big and being so courageous, and then giving the gift back to others, which I know you do so generously through all of your training and just creativity and who you be. You're a kind, giving man. So I'm curious, as running across the country, taking on such a big project, I'm guessing it's similar to people's health goals. So I'm wondering how you recommend kind of people approach that. A big goal.
Big goals. I instead of focusing on how far away or how long it'll take, it's reverse engineering it, bringing it down to each day, each moment, each choice, each decision. And when you're really aware of that, and just focusing again at everyone, we all talk about living in the present moment, but that's really what it is. And it's trying to collect that that W each day, getting that win each day. And again, we're all human beings. We all make our mistakes. We all fall off track here and there, but it's how fast you bounce back when you do fall off track. And again, just collecting more W's. Just trying to get those wins. And you're not always going to get wins, because when you get the losses, I look at those as learning experiences instead of like a loss. It's when you don't get to where you're going, you can go back to the drawing boards and understand why you didn't get there. But it is, if you have that big goal, big dream, it's breaking each day down to the moments,
Yeah.
and going in the direction that it's going to take you there. So
Yeah, I definitely heard that as a big part of your journey. and, running across the country that, really starts out with taking the steps. Like when you're talking, I know that when you got injured and having the big vision and then getting back to refining your craft and then with practice, building. So I've got a lot of questions for you, especially pertaining to being a physical trainer from all the people you've worked with in terms of discipline and the way that you kind of work with people. Do you feel like most people love like a tough love type of thing or compassionate? Kind of how do you mix and manage that when dealing with other people?
It's a great question, and that's the beauty of my job is I'm working with a vast variety of personalities, right? I'm not treating everyone the same way, so it's my job to dial in to understand what kind of person they are, how they tick, why they tick, all the things. And I always generally, once I have that foundational relationship, I always express or share the tough love when it's needed. It's not always needed, but when it is, and everyone appreciates it because a lot of these, some of these guys I'm training, they're very powerful individuals where they have maybe 100 people working for them, or they've always been in that leadership position where not many people are telling them or asking them to do something. They're always the one, generally in that role. So, having the respect, I guess, that they have for me, and seeing me that living the life that I try to live is, they're very receptive and will listen to trying some different methods to get them into the space that they're looking to get into.
And then in terms of kind of developing maybe a weekly practice for taking care of one's physical health, I'm curious to know what you think that essential formula is. I know everyone's kind of got their own formula, but I'm curious to know what your take is on working with so many people.
Yeah, and I heard you say like going to the gym, like you don't have to go to a gym to be in shape. I mean, especially living in California when the weather's nice, I always invite the play element, the creative play. So when people work out with me, they're not looking at it as like a serious thing, like they're not going, oh man, I have to train with Chris. So like maybe it's I get to train with Chris, and they hopefully have a smile on their face, because like you said, with the creativity, especially when it warms up in New York, I'll take them to parks, I'll take them to their rooftop. It's not always in the gym, and I'm always trying to create different fun workouts. I do kickboxing with all my clients, and I think that's such a fun element to get the mind thinking in a different way, get the body moving in a different way. And it is the real thing is inviting play into it. When you're playing with what you're doing and you're having fun, you're smiling and you're sweating, like I think you're gonna continue to want to do that kind of thing for yourself, So make it attractive versus not a chore. That's kind of like my approach or philosophy, if you will.
That's awesome. I know that's one of the things for me that I do look at working out as a bit of a chore. I like going for runs. It clears my head. And I know there's like more to it in terms of stretching and building up my core that are things that I want to work on. So you have any advice for me in that regard?
For sure. And that's the thing, though, that what I've noticed too over all the years is that we are creatures of habits, right? We're always doing the same things, or like, oh, running gets you in shape, so I'm going to run. And like, just because that might work for me doesn't mean that's the model of what you should do of what I do, right? It's like, it's also your journey to find what works best for you. So whether that's going out, getting a canoe and rowing, or like going rock climbing, like other things, again, like you don't have to be lifting weights. Your body is a gym in itself. Like moving your body in all different ways could be your own gym. You don't need all these fancy, like equipment and all these things. Like, do they help? For sure. But there's a time and place for all of it. So it's really challenging yourself and doing different activities versus just the run or, all that. But I think further than that, what I don't think that's talked about enough in the fitness nutrition world is that, we break the body down so much. Most of us may even like overtrain. So it's really like start focusing, or I invite people to focus on like your sleep. How much sleep do you get? What's the quality in that sleep? Because that's where all the magic and the recovery happens. So you can do that next workout. Because if you're not getting enough sleep and you're not drinking enough water, you're not doing your body a service to perform at its optimal level. And I think most people want to perform optimally. So I think that, dialing it in as what's my sleep? How can I set my, sleeping schedule better? Not looking at my iPhone or on the computer or watching even TV, before, an hour before you go to sleep, because there's a real thing with your circadian rhythm. It's that when you're letting light into your body thinks like the sun's still up. So it's when you starting winding down, like really reading a book, like before you go to sleep, like a book will generally put you to sleep faster, and you might gain a little more knowledge and, go into your sleep that way. So I think that's been a huge thing for me over the past few years to setting up some like real rituals to, get to sleep better, because I am waking up at 4:30 most mornings, because I'm training most guys at 5:15, 5:30 before they go to work. So I have to, set myself up as well to bring that kind of energy into the whole day. So.
That's awesome. I really respect your holistic approach to working out. That it feels very unique. You make it fun. I know for me personally, we haven't had the chance to work together in that realm. I'd love to hire you. I know you like to work with people in person, but you're sending someone a quote or something thoughtful in addition to just focusing on one's health. I think like you really master the mindset element as well. So that's one thing that I respect so much about you, as well as your creativity. So I do want to ask you about creativity in a second, but I know you're extremely passionate about breath work and holotropic breath work. So I wanted to, get your take as to why you're so interested in that and what we need to know about it.
Yeah, sure. So I've been practicing the breath work, or as it's also referred to as holotropic breathing, or holotropic, people pronounce it tomato, but I've been doing this for a couple years now, maybe like 4 or 5 years, and only really a couple times each year. But this past year, I guess 2018, I've had some real breakthroughs as far as doing like different sound baths. Like some facilitators will invite the breath work in only for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You might feel some vibrations through your body, moving some stagnant energy around. But it's just like even like in a marathon or like anything that's breaking through, they're getting that second wind or breaking through the wall. And that's a lot of the times when most human beings feel discomfort, right? You want to stop, like, oh, relax, just take a breather, pun intended. But also going back to the breath work, it's like you have to get in a very uncomfortable space. And I joke with, it's called breath work, not breath easy, right? It's actual work that you have to put in to get through to this other side. When I talk about this other side, I've had moments, where I basically like float out of my body of what it may feel like, and then it's maybe it's like my ego dissolves, and then I'm able to see on the map of like, what am I doing in my life? What are my relationships in my life? And what are some of the things I'm doing well, and what are some of the things that just aren't serving me in life? And it just dials in to me, from my experience and from what I've heard from others that practice this breath work, that it's just, when you get out of this whole, and it could be an hour of breath work, it could be 2 hours of doing this, there's different methods of the breathing from the diaphragm and up and through. And actually, Wim Hof is his nickname is the Iceman, but he has a lot of these practices and does a lot of these leads, facilitates breath work, holotropic breathing with groups and such. But, I just think you really get some divine insights, and it could be very transformational if and when you take the time and space to do that. And again, I feel like we live kind of in a society where we like to press play, sit back, relax, get comfortable, be in the comfort zone, and that's natural. But I don't think you'll ever regret the time you take for the self-improvement of yourself, or when you do, a breathwork class. And, I think the insights that will come from that will be priceless, and I think it'll be time well spent.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing to me that like it took me 35 years to even hear that there were breath work classes. I mean, I'd heard for pregnancy preparation and stuff, but something as basic of a human need as breathing. I know meditation is focusing on the breath, but I think that's a really important skill to have. My girlfriend actually calls me a lazy breather, so it's something that I'm committed to working out better. And my friend Kyle Kesterson says that fear is just excitement without the breath. And so I think that's a great reminder that breath is just it's the foundation of everything. It's the foundation of life. And I love that. That's something that you're passionate about and supporting people with.
It's just, as you say, it's the foundation of life. It's like, I'll have you ask or answer two questions. Like, what do you enter this world with doing? Breathing, right? Like as a baby, right? You take your first breath.
Right.
And what happens when you die? It's your last breath, right? Yeah. So it's like in between, how aware are you of your breathing, right? And when you really bring some awareness and being mindful of your breath, and again, the past year too, it's funny, like you hear parents or you hear like the elders say, take a deep breath, but like really, even when I bike around New York City everywhere, people cut me off. There's all kinds of crazy things happening. I do, even in the winter. I'm crazy, but I breathe through it, man. I heard this from Aubrey Marcus. He talks about a Japanese study saying taking 6 deep breaths can really change the state, just lower your blood pressure, lower your resting heart rate, and just really change the state you're in. And with you really just go fully in the nose, and doing that 6 times, it takes 10-15 seconds to do that. And I promise you will think clearer and you will be in a much better space on whatever decisions you have to make. Yeah. But it's taking that time.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, we're human, doings these days, not human beings, right? So we're always doing things. We think that meditation is going to slow us down because we're not checking off the list, or this breath or these other things are going to slow us down. But really, it's going to open up a whole another landscape of how you can do your approach versus just this. I think it could help shift and open.
You've talked a lot about, basic human things like taking care of our health and wellness, which you support people with through your training, and then talking about breath being, the foundation of life. And then another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is expression. Yeah. And you have a bracelet on right now. It says LYFE, LYFE. And you also sent me a handwritten note on a piece of black paper. It's up in the bathroom. Did you see that?
Amazing. Yes.
And so tell us, so LYFE is spelled a little bit differently, LYFE. I'm curious to know where that fits into the overall picture of holistic living.
Definitely. So I do, over the years too, I like to play with, I'm not always the full rule follower. I break some rules.
What?
I think differently, I guess. And so I've been spelling life for the past 7-8 years with a Y. And I, over the years too, I've come up with an acronym for it, and in which will be, I guess, my next segment or movement into what I want to do for maybe the rest of my life is being a life coach or life trainer in essence. And it stands for living your full expression. And I believe that whatever anyone does while they're living, they're expressing themselves, right? By the way you have your hair, the clothes you're wearing today, all these things is an expression, outward expression. That's your introduction to the world before people even talk to you, is what you're wearing, how even your energy, what your approach is. And I think going through all these different things and understanding some of the core essence of the vibrations and living and energy, I just want to share, or I want to invite people to live their full expression. And I think with that, starting with that, as the masses and more people create that space, just like the love bomb, the more love there is, the happier the world will be, essentially. So I think starting there, it could be a fun project and a great way to teach and be taught myself.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I know you're a big advocate of, looking right at your Instagram handle, create the flow. Correct. So why flow? Where does that fit into this bigger mix here?
For sure, yeah. So right before before I ran across the country, I don't even know, maybe it was I'm not even sure what year, to be honest, it was, but I got on Instagram and I'm like, what's my name gonna be instead of just Chris Sam's, like, whatever. I'm like, I was like, I feel like everyone wants to be in a flow state or understand like what does it feel like being in flow. It's not everything. It's just like you're in this space of just like almost like ecstasy of like everything is just like working as it should. You're not overthinking it. You're not, you're just riding that wave. And I think it would be amazing for everyone to find that within themselves, is creating their own kind of flow, whatever that might mean to you as a human being. And so that's what I'm always trying to do for myself, is drop into different flow states, whether it's riding my bike through New York City and just like being in this flow and just, sort of an adrenaline rush, and just kind of like, that's like kind of, to me, living optimally. Like the more times you can taste and touch flow states, the better your life is maybe overall going to be, or the happier you're going to be. So I want to try to share that and understand that deeper.
It's such a powerful place to be. I mean, like swimming downstream, literally, I know for me sometimes I cling to, a version of myself, or who I think I am, what I'm capable of, or the need to be right about something, whether in an argument or somebody else. And I find that when I am clinging to the need to being right or clinging to control, I'm essentially, like, if you think about it, like using a river as an analogy, like I'm clinging to like holding onto a rock, or when I'm trying to control it, I might end up in the brush versus literally being in the flow. So I love that metaphor and analogy, and thank you for being supportive and helping people find their own flow.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah. I had one more question before we kind of close off this interview. You just talked about, those reminders of who we are. And so you ran across America. I'm sure there were lots of moments of darkness, perhaps during those long stretches between two locations, or those narrow roads where there wasn't a shoulder to feel safe on, or moments when, you were thinking about the whole journey versus focusing on your next step. I mean, there's so many examples that we all face where we might get lost in a problem that we're facing at work, or a tiff in a relationship, or maybe a negative thought about ourselves. So I'm curious to know, what do you do when you're finding yourself in a dark place, or maybe a negative thought? What helps you navigate out of that into a free-flowing space?
Instead of even like mentally, it's like, how can I change my state of being? And there is, with doing certain breath work routines in the morning, like what is available right now, versus just even thoughts, like what action can I take? And even like going through like a 5-minute like breathing circulation can kind of really build a whole different kind of energy. And again, if you have access to a cold shower, like I've been practicing cold showers for, probably the past 10 years. And that, if anyone knows, has jumped into the polar bear plunge, I've been doing those for years. Like that really changes the state of how you feel. And I feel like it's one of the most invigorating things you can naturally do for yourself, like versus even drinking coffee. Like, trust me, take a freezing cold shower for 2-3 minutes. You'll feel more alive and more vibrant than any coffee could ever make you feel. So I think those are some of my tools and techniques that I can draw on to help shift the energy and shift where I am, or even like making a phone call to someone that is also inspiring, or someone that I also love, that, that's available too. So I think if you have not just one or two, just having like 3 or 4 or 5 things in your tool bag, and everyone's going to be different, or even reading some things. That's why I have quotes and different things as friendly reminders of, like, just by reading a few words can help shift like the trajectory of your mental mind space. And I think like all these things are available to, most people. And again, it's for you to discover, and you to tinker with, and for you to play with what invites the smile onto your face, and what you can do to change your energy. And it's not always easy, and it's sometimes we want to like sit in that and marinate in it. But I think our higher self knows that the sooner we get out of that space, the better we're gonna thank ourselves for like not feeling sorry for ourselves, and just again getting on that right path.
Yeah. What I've certainly learned from, the practice is that, as human beings, we suffer. We're going to be the victim at certain times. It's just when those moments come up, when I find myself in my own shit,
For sure.
it's, you know, realizing that it's a choice as to how long I stay in it for.
100%,
And I think,
yeah.
you know, with tools, you know, whether it's, you know, getting out of my head and into my body and going for a run, or starting a day off with a cold shower just to take a, you know, courageous act, or calling someone,
that's what it
you know,
is.
all great tools that I think can help us get out of our own ways and reconnect with others. And of being in service, helping somebody else out is a great way to do it as well. So as we wrap up the show, Chris, what can we do to support you?
Well, my social media is Create the Flow. I again, it's very random. I post all different things, you know, whether it's a scenic view of a sunset that's beautiful to me, or a quote, or, you know, I don't really have too much of a rhyme or reason, or even like a frequency lately of what I'm putting out there. But you know, when I get this book, you know, I know the title's going to be Between Broken White Lines. And that's, you know, as you run down a highway, that's, you know, the broken white lines. And there's also some family stuff that I didn't get into. I'll save for the book. That some relationships are broken, and then they fuse together because I did this run. And people rejoined, you know, falling out relationships that haven't been there for 20, 25 years, and reconnected in Texas. And yeah, so the book, when my this is my biggest project. My goal is to finish it before 2020. So, you know, a beautiful way to support would maybe to read that book and see how it can hopefully change and shift your life for the better.
Amazing. I can't wait for the book to come out. Just from what you shared earlier, it sounds like there's so much wisdom and so much learning. You know, so cool when we do something that we never thought was possible, or chase a dream. There's just always so many lessons along the way in terms of seeing things that we never could have seen from like our current vantage point. So I think that is so cool and courageous of you to have taken that leap, you know, to have the idea, to do what you needed to do to actually execute it, or to start the journey and then to do it. And I know it just, it keeps on unfolding as you shared earlier. So as we wrap up this interview, what are your final words of encouragement for people of Are You Being Real to live just a beautiful, meaningful, creatively expressed life, you know, fullest expression type of life? What do you got for us, brother?
I have a quote that it seems simple, but it's really helped change my life. And I wrote it out. It says, "Everything stays the same, and then when you switch up the words upside down until you try something different." And when you're reading that, when it's upside down and written backwards, because again, like I've spoke on, we like to be in the comfort zone where we are, you know, we like to do habitual things that we think are working in their optimal ways. But again, the body's smart. Your body's going to adapt to any like pressures and stresses you put it under. And it is about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you keep reminding yourself and you keep being true to yourself with that and switching it up, trying different things, you never know what direction your life may take. And it could be the most amazing, beautiful experience if you give yourself that openness to take that journey versus staying in that comfort zone. And it is when you surround yourself with different people asking you different questions, that's going to help you, you know, get outside of your echo chamber of your own, you know, conversations within your head. So, yeah, everything stays the same until you try something different. So go for the different and enjoy the beautiful journey along the way.
The one and only Chris Sams. Chris, you're the man, brother.
Cheers, man.
I love you.
Thank you. Much love.